101.1 WHPR, Highland Park. WVIE 107.3 FM Charlotte, Amalia, Virgin Islands.
SOS Graphic Design provides agency quality professional graphic design services from established companies to startups and individuals, creating a simple logo to complete rebranding and delivering visual communication with print media. Everything SOS Graphic Design does has a single unifying objective to set your business apart. We are at your service. Call 313-342-2166. That's 313-342-2166 or online at www.sosgraphicdesigns.com.
Have you ever searched through a shelf full of greeting cards and still couldn't find the one that echoes how you felt? Well, search no more and call Design by Beach. We offer birthday cards. Our cards are one-of-a-kind keepsake items that your recipient will want to place on their mantle with all of their other beautiful and treasured items. We also offer holiday cards. With Design by Beach, those holidays will go unnoticed. Our unique greeting cards are sure to celebrate all holidays. We also have cards for special occasions. We are your one-stop shop for unique and three-dimensional, handmade greeting cards for all occasions. Specializing, we also make custom orders. Every card is crafted with care and made with love. So call Design by Beach today at 601-451-9536 or visit our website, www.designbybeach.com.
Attention, brothers and sisters, viewers and listeners, coming soon. Your Son of Man Speaks magazine digital subscription. Your digital subscription to the Son of Man Speaks magazine will also include our monthly e-newsletter delivered to your inbox. If you have any questions regarding the digital magazine subscription or digital newsletter, you may send an email to shabazsprinting@thenewnationofislam.com. That's shabazsprinting@thenewnationofislam.com. Or call 1-601-786-9788. That's 1-601-786-9788. Pick up your copy of the Son of Man Speaks magazine today. With the Son of Man Speaks magazine, you'll receive automotive tips, wholesome recipes, financial advice, and most importantly, a true understanding of the Word of God. Get your copy of the Son of Man Speaks from these select locations. Sisters, Brave 2, 18070 Mount Elliott, the Shell gas station, 13110 West 7 Mile Road. Begin subscription. Call 601-786-9788. That's 601-786-9788. The Son of Man Speaks, dedicated to becoming free indeed.
We're moving on now.
Come check out the new Sisters Braid 2 Hair Braiding and Natural Hair Care Salon, located at 18070 Mount Elliott Street. Our new salon is spacious with adequate parking, Wi-Fi, and all brand new state-of-the-art salon equipment. Come meet your local hair braiders and natural hair care specialists, and check out our many hair care services such as hair treatments, box braids, cornrows, tree braids, Havana twists, children's braids, natural twists, lock extensions, kinky twists, guider flops, updos, full weaves, and more. Please feel free to visit us on the web at www.sistersbraid2.com or call 313-826-0498. Here at Sisters Braid 2, we offer exceptional care for exceptional hair. We look forward to seeing you. Sisters Braid 2 is a proud recipient of the Unity and Rebuilding Fund.
We would like to invite you to help support the efforts of the Unity and Rebuilding Fund. Visit the website www.unityandrebuildingfund.com. That's www.unityandrebuildingfund.com. We often hear how we need to Foundation and click on Link to start the process of the Unity and Rebuilding. And for more information, 313-826-0000, the local number. Again, 313-826-0000. Support the Unity and Rebuilding.
To make your online tithe offering
Recording started.
to the Son of Man who cash out make your payment to $New Nation of Islam. That's $New Nation of Islam. Or call 601-786-7056. 601-786-7056.
The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of WHPS, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.
Brothers and sisters, are you tired of reading the Holy Scripture and not really understanding what you read? And if you're reasonably sure, have you ever tested that what you feel you know with someone that has a different view than your own? Then let's talk with one another. Then let's reason with one another on the Scriptural Discussion with the Son of Man every Wednesday at 9 p.m., Friday at 9 p.m., and Sunday at 12 noon on WHPR TV Detroit Live, 88.1 FM WHPR, and Comcast Cable. Why don't you call and discuss the Holy Bible, and if you have one, the Holy Quran, and come to an agreement about the Holy Scriptures and their true meaning? You can call them live on the air at area code 313-868-4336, 313-868-0342, or 313-868-0351. That's 313-868-4336, 313-868-0342, or 313-868-0351. And now, let's go live with a scriptural discussion with the Son of Man.
Everyone. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, the Truthful, and the Most Just, I greet you once again who are hungry and thirsty for the truth of righteousness and otherwise. I greet you all with the greeting words of peace. May Allah's Salam Alaikum. I have quite a bit to share with you this evening, but the CDC was the Center for Disease Control, now headed up by I think Dr. Fauci has kind of faded into the support role, and this new directress, I think it's a woman, and so I said directress. Dr. Rochelle Walensky, has told us that they're expecting a double, not just the what is that, Omicron, but also the flu, and so they advised that everyone should get another booster for that Omicron variant because it's still killing people, and so if you've had 2 boosters, you're gonna need a 3rd booster, and sometimes you all call me and ask me about that, and I don't try to play doctor with people. I wait on those who have seemingly put our best interests above politics and all of that, uh, race and all of that stuff, that kind of stuff, and are more concerned about our humanity. And that's the kind of world that's coming in, where those in authority are a part of the human family, and they recognize that. And so we are thankful for that type of people. So I went and got a booster, and I'm going to let you keep count of how many you saw. Let's see here.
This is your
Give me the dog and what did you say? You're ready to mess, so we can't see you anyway.
Today I'll be giving your second dose.
Yes, ma'am. Second dose.
Alright, this is good.
Right in here?
Alright, Miss Muhammad. My name is Taylor, so you're feeling well today?
Yes, ma'am.
Alright, everything is good, so you are supposed to wait 15 minutes to make sure no reaction to the vaccine. How was the first one? Did you have something?
No, I'm very good.
Okay. Did you need to go to the side effects again for you, or are you pretty good on it?
I'm good.
Okay.
He done already there.
Yeah, all done.
Yeah, most of my children in there. So,
Alright,
you know, I didn't want them to think I was sending them to do something that I was.
Okay, so you do have a 2-week window to make build up your system, your immunity, and then after that 2 weeks, you will be considered fully vaccinated. Any questions or anything?
Okay.
Alright, so congratulations on getting that. Congratulations on getting this. You have a great weekend, okay?
Okay.
You can be on now.
Yes, ma'am.
Alright, and she'll give you this new card. We just get a new card for you when you stay
Okay.
there.
Thanks.
Alright, thank you.
Y'all can't see me, but I'm smiling. I hate me.
You got, did you want to wait?
Oh, I'm over. Sit out there and wait. Did you want me to sit back here?
Yeah, get out of it.
Okay.
Alright, well, you got y'all done, and we'll give you a card too. It's going right.
Okay.
Thank y'all. Now have a good one.
And you too. Thank you.
Alright. Oh, here's a. Sorry, okay.
Okay.
Do you have any questions with everybody?
No, my concern was assuaged last time I was up there.
Okay.
My sister giving me shots on that.
Alright, which arm you gonna get?
I got in the left before.
Okay.
They treat me all alright?
Yeah, well.
Okay.
Let me not say it.
He's selling this for home short online and getting it.
Oh,
there telling people don't get the vaccine. Okay. It's a baby.
All right, Mr. Muhammad.
And I'll sit down here for 15 minutes.
Yes, sir. You need the card?
Thank you.
I need something.
Oh, that was blood that was up under that.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You got have a good day.
And you too, sister. I want you to know I really appreciate it. I'm so thankful for this.
You're welcome.
Bad enough we get all this bad information. I got some people that don't look at it. Come on, boy, I want to do it my own thing. You understand? But I know it ain't gonna work.
I see you. All right.
Okay.
All right,
Take care of
now.
yourself. Yes, ma'am. I'll be out here for about 15 minutes.
All right.
If you plan with this, we're gonna put it on live.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I had 3. We put each one on live. Okay. So that people can see that we are actually cooperating. Yeah, right. You know what you're supposed to do, right? You know, let nobody stumble over me. You know, you're supposed to be the leader of that. That's right. And at least I can do it day and night. Now, I ain't me. All right. Don't tell me when, just do it. That's it? That's it. All right. That's good. Brother, I'm still thankful for y'all. All right. Yes, sir. I don't need that. Right. Right. You doing what you're supposed to do, sir. Good. Okay, man. You got it? Yes, sir. Okay. All right, there we go. All right. There we go. Now, if y'all say do it again, we'll do it again. Yes, sir. Okay. All right. What's your name? Ted. All right. Call my son. All right.
Who's my favorite?
Look, sometimes I want y'all to think about coming on our roster. Okay. Important. It's very important. Vaccine. It's very important. Because the numbers don't lie. That's my thing. That's all. What's your age? 71. So you're 72 now. People who have underlying health conditions, maybe really good one. Cancer is a positive. And elderly people, exactly. I ain't know and look, let me give you these phone numbers. You got one to call? Hello, sir. Okay. This is all of the phone numbers. I'm gonna give it to you what I need. There's a talking phone. You can just call them from home, and I can introduce you, and give me your credentials so that I can introduce you further. And then the people can listen to you tell them, I can write all the continent, you know, we on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Okay. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m. Mm-hmm. So Sundays at 11 a.m. Yes. Okay. I'll let you know when I can do it. I'll do it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I was inviting the pharmacists and the pharmacist technicians. Any of them could come on and reiterate the importance of vaccinating yourself, especially when there's a pandemic, because you hear about on sci-fi about some meteor or something hitting the Earth. If you knew how fast the Earth was traveling, which is almost nine times faster than a bullet, you would know that there ain't hardly no chance of nothing hitting the Earth from out there. But a thing that you don't realize is that a virus can wipe out life on the continent and on the planet. And you had better pay attention to these people. Now, the scripture teaches you, it says, there shall be famines and pestilences. A pestilence is a famine. A pandemic. Just like you get roaches in your house and you call them pests, roaches, rats, and all of those things. Viruses are pestilences. They invade the human body. And you better give thanks that Allah gave you some people that have sense. And he told us to submit to those who have more sense than us. When I say sense there, I mean more knowledge. The same way that your senses detect, for instance, the odor that they put in gas so that you will detect it. There's by your senses, your sense of smell. Well, when you receive knowledge that other people don't have, for instance, of how to look in the microscopic or the world that is unseen by the naked eye, then when you're given knowledge of those things, then you have an extra sense that people don't have, that the common person does not have, and you deserve to be listened to. So they told us that there is still danger. So we are thankful for that. Many people that claim to be, as I was exercising with one of my brothers, and I told him, I say, isn't it something how people hear what they want to hear? They things that they don't want to agree with, they pretend not to hear it. Do you understand? It's like people who tried to turn the teachings of the Nation of Islam into racism. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was no racist. I remember in Message to the Black Man, if you had really read it and really understood it, you would have known he did away with that false assumption in that book. As he said, a true father loves his children regardless to how they act. Do you understand? Not loving them ain't got nothing to do with that. Look at what the scripture says. It is not your heavenly Father's will that any should perish. You know the main thing that he was doing while he was after making the devil and telling him to go out there and test the righteous? He was teaching the devil a lesson. That which I made, I know it. And when I say something is this, that's what it is. Now you going out there. I know I made you a ruler, and you going out there. Go test that one. And you go and test them and everything. So at the end, when there's no more time for testing, he also told him, now I'm going to create a mortal of sounding clay of black mud fashioned into shape. Now when I have made him complete and breathed into him of my spirit, fall down and make obeisance to him. Humble yourself. You got 6 days to do all your work. But when this one comes, he's your Lord. And you humble yourself. Why you think he asked the devil in the Holy Quran? He said, why didn't you submit to him whom I created with both my hands like I told you I was going to do? So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he gave us something to hang our hats on. I'll show it to you. Let's see. It's right here.
You will be told to break ground on the next one. Come on in, brother. Yes, sir. I want to thank the Chicago white people for making it possible for us to obtain the country club, for making it possible for us to get in such position where we can prove ourselves worthy of this position. Yes, sir. We thank them. They have did us a great favor. Yes, sir. I don't think that we have nothing to do but to honor and thank them for putting us in such position. Yes, sir. This is their house. And we're here teaching the truth. Yes, sir. They're not objecting to you teaching the truth. As we have white Muslims in America. And lots of things. We have them all over the world. Yes, sir. And they recognize and respect him. Go ahead, you must recognize and respect him. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How come ain't none of y'all hear that? There ain't no such thing as a stupid Muslim. You got to have intelligence to submit willingly to God. That's what Muslim means. One who submits to God. God is the truth. A Muslim is one who submits to the truth. You can't be stupid and submit to the truth. You have to have some intelligence. But I look like standing up talking to somebody like Dr. Fuller or Dr. Fauci, telling them, talking to them like I'm on their level when it comes to viruses. They can ask me one question and shut my mouth because I'm not a fool. Well, when the last time you been in a laboratory studying a virus, Mr. Son of Man? Are you speaking on things that you have no knowledge of? Is that intelligent? Somewhere in one of your books, I think is written, follow not that of which thou hast no knowledge. Huh? If the blind lead the blind, both will fall into the ditch together. Whenever you reach any subject matter that you don't have knowledge of, and you try to lead other people in that area, you are a blind leader leading blind people. It's like I've told you so many times. I hear some of the newscasters talking about how dumb it was for Trump and them to do this and dumb it was for them to do that. There is no smart way to do something evil. Because if you were really smart, you wouldn't do that. There's no right way to do a wrong thing. There's a truthful way to do it, but that ain't no right way. See, you don't know the meaning of words, and so you misunderstand when we talk about guide us on the right path, the path of those whom thou hast bestowed favors, not the path of Satan and those who go astray. Huh? Yes, there's a truth that will lead you astray. But it's not a right way to go wrong. This is the wrong way to do it. Now go. Do you understand? They got a sign on the street pointing one way. And it's telling you without telling you, if you're going against that arrow there, you're going the wrong way. Do you understand? So, and sometimes it tell you, do not enter. And you go in there anyway. You're just stupid. So anyway, I believe it or not. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when he told me there are white Muslims in America and they recognize and respect us, he said, you must recognize and respect them. Okay. So I got the message. You know, people who look for the truth of viruses and things that could harm us. You know, the more truth you know, it almost makes it impossible for you to practice racism. It's kind of like on the Matrix when it was on Revolutions, and the young man was running with the wheelbarrow full of ammunition, and it turned over, and one of the commanders asked him, "What are you doing out here? What is it? What are you? Who are you? What are you doing?" He said, "How old are you?" He said, 18. He said, "If you'd have said 16, I might have believed you." And he said, and the young man told him, he said, "What do you," after he told him, he fussed him out for being out there, he in so many words, he said, "You're too young." And he said, "The machines don't care how old I am. They're going to kill me anyway." And he said, "You got that right." He said, "But I tell you what, me and them machines going to have something coming if you mess up out here." And, but he made the point. But that, do you honestly think that virus care what color you are? Yeah, okay. Keep being stupid. And I'm going to tell you something else. I don't completely trust white people, but I do completely trust Allah's word. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said before they could kill 300 of us, Allah would kill all of them. So don't think that I'm a fool. I listen to the messenger. Just a moment. This is some man. What are you doing calling me during meeting time?
Sorry.
What's wrong?
I just wanted to know if I could call in because
Okay, well, let me give it to you.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
601 909 No, 909 9135.
9135.
And the access code is 968 280.
280.
Okay, or you can put in this access code 258.
58.
No, I said 258.
Okay. 258.
055.
055.
Yes. So that's two ways into that conference room.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. And we on right now, and we in the room right now.
Okay, I've been listening because I didn't know. I had some trouble with my phone when I listened.
Okay.
I just been desperate trying to figure out how to get in there because I couldn't get in there. I couldn't get in anymore.
All right. Well, you can get in through there now.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's all right. You ain't got to apologize. You made a.
I didn't know what I was calling. I didn't know you was on air. I thought I was just calling someone else.
No.
I didn't know you was going to pick up the phone.
Well, this is my phone number. This is my phone you call. This is my cell phone. So whenever you need to talk to me.
I got two telephone numbers here.
All right.
Okay, well, I ain't going to hold you up, and I appreciate you taking the time to do that for me.
You're welcome, brother.
And I support you, and I'm going to help you out. all I can.
All right. Well, I'm going to do the same for you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. If Allah, inspire me to answer when I hear my phone ring, I'll answer. If it don't, I won't. But I'm glad I answered that. Okay. So, brothers and sisters, I want you to understand something, that I'm not here to destroy any people. I'm here to destroy evil, to get rid of evil that is causing people to destroy themselves and others. Do you understand? Okay. So don't look for me to come here practicing what you've been practicing. You see, people think that sometimes they think revenge is justice. Revenge is not justice. Revenge is emotionalism. Reactionary people want revenge. Righteous people want justice. So, and generally when people go after revenge, it's more about their ego than it is anything else. How will I look if I don't do something about that? How will you look if you don't do something about that? What if the person that was done to brought that on themselves? What do you mean, how will you look? I'll tell you how you look. You look pretty stupid going after somebody for defending themselves against somebody that you call yourself in love with. I want to hear both sides, especially if I wasn't there. So anyway, now I'm going to keep my word to you. We're going to read chapter 4 of Jeffrey Berman's book. Then I got something that I want you to see. Chapter 4. It's time for you guys to even things out. On August 8, 2018, our office charged Chris Collins, a Republican congressman from New York, with insider trading and making false statements to federal law enforcement agents. It was just 2 weeks later that Michael Cohen surprised us by pleading guilty rather than face felony indictment. These two events occurred as we were looking into possible criminal conduct by Greg Craig, a prominent D.C. lawyer, a Democrat, and the White House counsel for the first year of the Obama administration. We were still in the midst of a careful process to determine if there was a basis for charging him when Rob Kuzami got a call from Ed O'Callahan at Maine Justice. This is the episode that I touched on briefly in the preface. Even as I think about it now, it remains no less stunning and disturbing. And in this chapter, I'll give it the fuller exploration it warrants. O'Callahan wanted us to charge Craig as soon as possible, before the midterm elections that November, because we had recently prosecuted a couple of Republicans, and so, quote, "It's time for you guys to even things out," he said. When Kuzami walked into my office right after this call to inform me about it, I asked Audrey Strauss to join us. And after the three of us got through expressing our disbelief at the impropriety and outrageousness of O'Callahan's demand, we talked about how to respond to it. We had no trouble agreeing among ourselves. It would have no weight in the decision we reached and no influence on its timing. What I could not know at the time was how determined Maine Justice was to see Craig face a jury and the extremes they would go to in order to make that happen. Craig was 73 years old in the summer of 2018. He still had a full head of gray hair and the patrician manner of a man who had been educated at Phillips Exeter Academy, Harvard, and Yale Law School. By any measure, his career was distinguished. He worked in the office of Senator Edward Kennedy in the mid-1980s and later held a senior post at the State Department under Secretary of State Madeleine Albright. In his time outside government, he was a partner at Williams and Connolly, the high-powered firm founded by the D.C. Legal legend Edward Bennett Williams. He had represented a long list of high-profile clients, among them his former law school classmate Bill Clinton in the 1999 impeachment trial. The conduct of Craig's that came into question occurred in 2012 when he was retained by the government of Ukraine to conduct an investigation into whether the trial of a former prime minister, Yulia Tymoshenko, had met Western standards of jurisprudence. Tymoshenko had been a leader of what was known as the Orange Revolution, and she favored Ukraine aligning with the European Union and NATO. Ukraine was led at the time by Viktor Yanukovych, who was considered an ally of the Russian president Vladimir Putin. In a 2011 trial widely condemned in the West as politically motivated, Tymoshenko was convicted on corruption charges and sentenced to 7 years in prison. The relationships around this case in Washington were complicated. Yanukovych was a client of the political consultant Paul Manafort, whom he hired to improve his image abroad and blunt criticism of what was seen as a political trial. It was Manafort who would later become Trump's campaign chief, who directed the Ukraine work to Craig, a beacon of the Democratic establishment. Craig by then was a partner at another blue chip firm, Skadden, Arps, Slate, Megher, and Flum. The 187-page report produced by Craig and his team at the firm on Tymoshenko's trial was not a total exoneration of the Ukraine government, but Manafort and others were able to use parts of it to put a positive spin on the story and try to advance the regime's cause in Washington. It was what happened next, rather than the report's content, that caught DOJ's attention. Craig spoke to reporters about it. His interactions with the media raised a question. Had he gone beyond his role as a lawyer and acted in a public relations capacity for a foreign government? If so, he would have been required to register under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which is known as FARA. The purpose of the law is to ensure that the U.S. government and public know the source of information meant to influence opinion on behalf of a foreign government. In essence, it is designed to be a shield against misinformation or propaganda flowing in across our borders. Craig's failure to register under FARA was potentially a crime. His defense was as follows. In talking to reporters, he was not working on behalf of Ukraine, but rather tending to his own reputation. The Ukraine government and its allies were exploiting the report for their own purposes, and he was attempting to let the media know that he had not produced a document that was a whitewash. The Craig investigation came to us in March 2018 in a referral from Maine Justice, arising out of an investigation from Mueller's office, which was looking into Manafort on Russia-related matters. The referral came from Ed O'Callaghan in a meeting with Ian Graff. In a meeting with Ian Graff, then co-chief of our National Security Unit. Mueller's team had come upon Craig's representation of Ukraine from half a dozen years earlier, and the questions it seemed to raise that had nothing to do with the special counsel's mission, so they handed it off to DOJ, which then brought us in. Our line prosecutors, Christy Greenberg, Jane Kim, and George Turner, spent the next few months thoroughly investigating the facts and analyzing the relevant statutes. In mid-August, they had conversations with Craig's defense counsel, William Taylor and William Murphy of the firm Zuckerman Spader, and presented evidence in support of filing criminal charges. About a week later, we got a 24-page letter with Craig's defenses. This back and forth was not a special courtesy extended to Craig. In fact, these interactions are common. Defense attorneys obviously want to do everything they can to avoid having their clients indicted, but the process is helpful as well to prosecutors. When we bring charges, we want to make sure they're warranted, and importantly, that what we have is strong enough to convince a jury. Hearing from opposing counsel gives us an opportunity to have our evidence tested and our theory of the case challenged. You know this. I'm going to stop there. Now you see why I'm always interested to talk to people who disagree with me. Do you understand? You don't find out how strong your knowledge is, or how truthful your knowledge is, and how complete in its veracity, if I can use that word, until it comes under fire. Do you understand? And if, as the messenger said, scientists seekers of truth. They question each other. They attack each other. And if you can't answer what you are attacked with, then something is wrong. Do you understand? That lets you know you got something weak here. And I wouldn't try to go in there and argue with that if I was you. I'd try to go do some more research. You better go do some more research. Huh? Research also means reasonable search. And it says, about a week after, I'm back reading again. About a week after sending the letter, the defense counsel came back in and made a presentation. It happened to be my first day back in the office after sitting Shiva for my father, who had passed away in late August 2018. It was a crowded meeting. I was in the room along with Kuzami, Strauss, and Zornberg, and as well as Graf and Michael Ferreira, National Security co-chiefs, and Timothy Howard and Daniel Noble, who led the complex fraud unit. The three associate U.S. attorneys working the case were there as well, and we had participation from Maine Justice. One of the deputy assistant attorneys general for the National Security Division had traveled from D.C. to attend, as had an NSD trial attorney. The tradition of the Southern District, and one I deeply believe in, is that everyone gets a say, from the most junior prosecutors on up. In almost every case, you know what that follows? When he says everybody gets a say, he wants input, opinions, advice from everybody that's in the room. In the multitude of counselors, there is safety. Do you understand? It's just like when you it's a poor design of a gun or a rifle or of any type of weapon, that any type of firearm. It's a poor design if it does not have a safety on it. In the multitude of counselors, there is safety. You don't want to pull the trigger on a trial or unless you done made sure that your stance is just. That's why they say the wheels of justice turn slow. You don't have to rush to get to justice. Matter of fact, justice demands slow deliberation, careful thought, to make sure that justice is not injustice. Do you understand? Okay. In almost every case, we were able to synthesize the views of everybody. If someone disagreed with a decision, they could respect it and know how it was reached. The final call was mine. Craig's lawyers showed us documentary evidence that he sought legal advice from his own firm on whether he needed to comply with FARA, and made a good faith decision that it did not apply to the work he was doing. Huh? In other words, he wasn't in charge. He checked with the people who were to see if what he was doing was legal. Do you understand? His concerns that his Ukraine client, the Minister of Justice, would distort the findings of his report in concert with the Justice Minister's British public relations operative were backed by evidence and documents. The client did ultimately falsely claim to the press that the Craig report found that the Timoshenko's trial, Timoshenko's trial was completely fair. They falsely said that Craig's things had proved that. When Craig talked to a New York Times reporter, he said, "We leave to others the question of whether this prosecution was politically motivated." His lawyers argued that this message was the opposite of what his clients in Ukraine wanted him to deliver, whereas the FARA statute requires registration of a person if a person is acting on behalf of a foreign client. His point was that he couldn't possibly be acting as a foreign agent when he was at odds with the preferred talking points of his foreign client. With respect to whether Craig lied to officials from DOJ's FARA unit when he was initially questioned about his work in Ukraine, his lawyers argued that the statements were literally true, or there were no contemporaneous notes taken by the officials about what exactly Craig had said. When Craig's attorneys left, I asked everyone in the room for their reaction. Adam Hickey from Maine Justice was by far the most bullish for prosecution. Others were on the fence. Strauss was not on the fence. She felt strongly that a prosecution was not warranted. I agreed with her. There was a marginal, at best, case to be made against Craig. If we prosecuted, I believed there was a good chance that a jury would find it hyper technical or trivial, and it wouldn't help that a lot of time had passed since the alleged offense. You see, understand something. When you're trying to undermine people's trust in their government, especially when it's a government based on laws and law enforcement, if you can get the people to think that the Justice Department is nitpicking and straining at gnats and swallowing camels, then that's one of the swiftest ways to undermine and destroy that government. Any government is destroyed when the people that it governs loses faith in it. Do you understand? They even forget how the government came about, because they get, when people lose their faith, and when you lose faith in something that you trusted, you feel lost. Do you understand? And so this was no accident. They wanted to get the Justice Department into frivolous prosecutions. To do what? To make it appear that the Justice Department are just as crooked as the people they prosecute. Do you understand? And once you do that, then you remember what that scene in Billy Jack when he had the conversation with the sheriff, and because the sheriff was crooked. And Billy told him, he said, when those who are supposed to uphold the law break the law, then there is no law. Just a struggle for survival. In other words, you're back in the jungle again. Do you understand? You see? So, I told you, I live in a world that ain't mine, but I sure paid attention. This is like when I was in school. I hated school. I never did like school. But when I was in class, I did pay attention. Do you understand? How you think I learned how to read and do math and the things that I I got what I needed to get. I was in the world and never became of it. On the Farrah charge, I believed that Craig was innocent because he was trying to protect his own reputation in talking to reporters, not the reputation of his Ukrainian client. On the potential false statement charges, if there was no credible Farrah charge, would a jury really be moved by possibly false statements he made in relation to a non-crime? That seemed unlikely to me. He said, after the meeting, the NSD attorneys returned, New York Southern District attorneys returned to Main Justice and no doubt reported to their superiors that charges against Craig were unlikely. It was soon thereafter that O'Callaghan told Kuzami, it's time for you guys to even things out. Fairness to defendants and to those we are considering prosecuting was of vital importance to me. It has long been part of the ethos of the Southern District. The training our rookie associate U.S. attorneys receive is extensive, much of it focusing on their ethical obligations to provide defendants information that might help them fight the charges. I reinforce this duty at every swearing-in ceremony by quoting the Supreme Court Justice George Sutherland's 1935 admonition that a U.S. attorney is the representative not of an ordinary party to a controversy, but of a sovereignty whose obligation to govern impartially is as compelling as its obligation to govern at all. Huh? You can't have one room for us and another for them. You can't have two sets of rules. You got to have one set of rules, and it's for everybody. Do you understand? Many of you used to accuse me of letting white people get away with things that I don't seem to let black people get away with. And I explained to you that white people were made devils. They didn't have no choice in it. Even the 400 years that he kept us in slavery it didn't make us devils. It made us Negroes. But it didn't make us devils. It made us carbon or grafted copies of him. But we couldn't become devils because we couldn't practice it. Do you understand? Except against ourselves. I have been greatly unjust to myself. And I confess my faults. But my faults was put there by white people. These things that we do against our own people, That was forced upon us by them. Do you understand? And so I give you some leeway, but I give them even more because they didn't have no choice in it for the past 6,000 years. And we reinforced it by telling them that at the end of 6,000 years, they was going to be killed. At least that's what they took it as. Do you understand? So justice is not always readily apparent to the untrained eye. Do you understand? If you knew, I remember in the Circle of Iron, the man broke a boy's nose. He said, "You're a beautiful boy. You broke his nose." They took that out of the Holy Quran, but in the Holy Quran, the guy that Moses was walking with, he killed that boy. Do you understand? And so at the end, the teacher told the student, at least the student said, "Okay, I'm ready to leave you now. So now answer my questions." He said, you did not you made a hole in that boat. Now it's people wasn't going to be able to use it no more after they loaned you their boat. You stopped in the middle of a fight and put up a wall, and he said, did you know there was that there was money in the wall? He said, "Yes, I knew." He said, "Well, did you smell it?" He said, "Did you see it?" He said, "No, I did not smell it and I did not see it." He said, "And the boy, there's a beautiful boy, you broke his nose." He said, "He was a tyrant and he would have grown up to be worse." He said, "Well, if you did not know the boy, if you did not smell the money or see the money, and if you knew nothing about the people with the boat, then why did you do it?" And then he thought. He said, "You've been this way before." And then he slapped him like that. He said, that's what his teacher did. He did him like that and said, "How many times?" Do you understand? And so just because you see people do something that you just now seeing the first time don't mean it's the first time they've seen it. Do you understand? And so this is where did I leave off at? It was on page 57, wasn't it? Beg pardon? See, if you was following them things with the shade, you could tell me where I left off at. I want to hear. Okay. I explained that I believed Craig was innocent of any potential federal charges because he had contacted the New York Times for his own personal reasons to maintain his and his firm's reputation. I added that any potential false statement charges were weak, even with an underlying federal charge. Standing alone, they were unsupportable. The next day, he called and said that the National Security Division still planned to charge Craig and just had to determine that's what that NSD was, not New York Southern District. National Security Division. The next day, he called and said that the National Security Division still planned to charge Craig and just had to determine what district would bring the case. I was flabbergasted. I don't know of another case in which a U.S. Attorney's Office went through a lengthy analysis of the facts and the law, concluded that no charges are appropriate, and the case was taken away by Main Justice and shopped out elsewhere. We had taken over cases from other offices where they were not excited about an early stage investigation. They never really looked fully into it, and we saw potential and picked it up. But this was far different. We had 3 tenacious and experienced prosecutors on it, as well as the involvement and full attention of the Southern District of New York leadership. We had investigated fully and come to a considered decision. The next communication on this from Main Justice came on the last day of the year. And the National Security Division, NSD, from now on you hear NSD, you know National Security. An NSD supervisor called Graff to make sure we would not object to their sharing our work product on Craig with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia. In a call to me a few days later, O'Callaghan, with Demers also on the line, wanted to know if I had read the draft prosecution memo that our team initially prepared. Was I really familiar with the facts of the case? Would I look back into it and revisit our decision not to prosecute? I held my ground. I said, yes, of course. I had read the memo and that I had been present in numerous meetings about Craig. I went back through the process that led to our decision and then assured them that we were not reversing it. At that point, they changed their approach. What if another U.S. Attorney's Office prosecuted Craig? Would I consider that improper? I replied that if they charged him with a FARA violation, it would be improper for the simple reason that he's innocent of it. With regard to a possible false statement charge, I said it would not be improper. It would just be a really bad idea because the case was extraordinarily weak. When a U.S. Attorney's Office passes on a prosecution after many months of consideration, that should be the end of it, especially when the subject of investigation is a friend or enemy of the president's. That calls for even greater distance between prosecutors in the field and political appointees in D.C. You never want to let people think that the Justice Department has become political. I'm saying that. That ain't on this page here. If the Justice Department becomes a political arm, then you just lost your justice system. Guilty people will go free and innocent people will be prosecuted. And justice no longer has a blindfold on. Do you understand? And she sure ain't no lady, but she's a prostitute. Do you understand? Okay. Main Justice peddled the case to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia. That's a large office, even bigger than the Southern District, because it functions as both a local prosecutor for the city, everything from misdemeanors on up to murders, and a prosecutor of federal crimes. I had some familiarity with that office, having been detailed there as a special assistant attorney, U.S. attorney for 6 months, misdemeanor unit, in order to get trial experience prior to working on an Iran-Contra trial. Jessie Lou became a U.S. attorney in D.C. in September 2017. She had worked as an assistant U.S. attorney in that office before serving in several high positions in Maine justice during the second term of President George W. Bush. When I talked to her about Craig, I restated what I had told O'Callaghan and Dimmers. He was innocent of any FARA violation, and the potential false statement charges were trivial at best and not worth pursuing. But my words had no impact. The train had left the station. By April, Craig's lawyers knew that their client would soon be charged and issued a statement. This case was thoroughly investigated by the Southern District, they said. That office decided not to pursue charges against Mr. Craig. We expect an indictment by the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office at the request of the National Security Division. Craig's lawyers called the prosecution a misguided abuse of prosecutorial discretion. A misguided abuse of prosecutorial discretion, unquote. A few days later, he was charged in D.C. with 2 felony counts related to alleged false statements he had made when questioned about his Ukraine work. The indictment alleged that Craig did not want to register as an agent of Ukraine, at least in part because he believed doing so would prevent him or others at the law firm from taking positions in the federal government in the future, end quote. It also alleged that he did not want to reveal that the law firm was paid by a private citizen in Ukraine for the report or the size of the fee, $4 million. You could look at the Craig case and have an interesting discussion about the ways of Washington, or about the kinds of business law firms engage in internationally, or about any number of other policy issues it might raise. But our job was to determine if any criminal laws were broken. I rarely knew for sure who was pulling the strings when Maine Justice acted in ways that seemed obviously political. When we first started getting pressure to go after Craig, Jeff Sessions was still the Attorney General. I had no sense of whether or not he was involved when we were being pushed by political appointees under him in Maine Justice, nor did I know if those individuals were in direct contact with anyone at the White House. Sessions was replaced by an acting Attorney General, Matthew Whitaker, and I never knew one way or the other about his interests or involvement in the Craig investigation. The president's interest in Craig, however, was not a mystery. The day after the indictment, Trump tweeted out the news with evident pleasure, as well as displeasure that the media did not make more of it. President Obama's top White House lawyer, Gregory B. Craig, was indicted yesterday on very serious charges, he wrote. This is a really big story, but the fake news New York Times didn't even put it on page 1, rather page 16. Washington Post, not much better. Tiny page 1, corrupt news. As his trial began in the summer of 2019, Craig faced a single felony count of misleading federal investigators when they came to interview him. The other count was dismissed before trial. He was never charged with the alleged offense they had come to talk to him about, violating the FARA statute. It was exactly the scenario I chose to steer away from. The criminal prosecution of an alleged lie about a non-crime. Federal prosecutors do not often lose cases. More than 90% end in either pleas or guilty verdicts. But this one seemed as if it could go in the other direction. The government's case centered on Craig's having hand-delivered a copy of his report on the Ukraine prosecution of Timoshenko to David Sanger, a reporter for the New York Times. That was before an on-the-record interview he gave Sanger. Craig took the relatively rare step of testifying on his own behalf. He said he spoke to Sanger and another journalist in order to make sure his report was accurately portrayed in the U.S. media. I did not trust Jonathan Hawker, a public relations person working with Paul Manafort, to give an accurate or honest description of the report we had written of the Timoshenko trial. He said in the beginning of his testimony, quote, "The headline about the report should be that this trial is flawed," Craig said. The government alleged that Craig lied about his interactions with the media. He countered that he had no reason to, because he was confident that his underlying actions broke no laws. If anybody was going to talk to the New York Times, it was going to be me, he said. I was not acting in the interest of Ukraine. I was defending the integrity of the report. The trial went on for 2.5 weeks. It took less than 5 hours for the jury to return with a verdict of not guilty. Outside the courthouse, William Taylor, one of Craig's lawyers, spoke to the media. Quote, "Why, after the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York rejected this prosecution, did the Department of Justice decide it had to hound this man and his family without any evidence and without any purpose?" he said. "It's a tragedy." Quote again, "It's a tragedy. It's a disgrace. I'm glad it's over." Even as I was immersed in the day-to-day work of the Southern District, I was understandably curious about the Craig trial and followed it by reading the newspaper accounts after each day's testimony. It wasn't always easy to get a real sense of how things were going. You have to be in the courtroom for that. But I never saw anything to suggest the government's case had become stronger. I was in my office talking to Graf when the verdict came in. First, I got an email. Then Audrey and others started walking in to talk to me about it. You always want to be proved right when you take a position and that others have opposed. That's human nature. But my main response was one of relief. The verdict felt like justice. Greg Craig should never have been prosecuted. If people at Maine Justice were not embarrassed by it, they should have been. No, I'll stop here. No, they weren't embarrassed by it because they were trying to make the Justice Department lose its credibility. They were trying to turn the Justice Department into a political rubber stamp and also a political prosecutorial body of men and women who would defend criminals and prosecute innocent people. If people at Main Justice were not embarrassed by it, they should have been, because a jury dispensing with a case after 5 hours does not leave you anything to feel good about. The Southern District has a reputation for being aggressive, but I'd like to think that our decisions were thoughtfully considered and based on a sense of fairness. We weren't reckless when we looked into the Craig case and made the determination not to go forward. That should have been the end of it. After the acquittal, the Wall Street Journal editorial page made that same point. Quote, "When the Hingham High Southern District won't prosecute," they wrote, "you know it's a bad case." Huh? Ain't it nice to have a good reputation? I assumed the verdict would send a message of deterrence about carrying Main Justice's water, that it would be a long time before another U.S. Attorney's Office picked up a case that we declined to prosecute. I also believed, or at least hoped, that the Craig verdict might cool down the pressure we had been getting to prosecute yet another enemy of the president. But that was naive on my part. Crooks don't. That we're going to leave it there, and we'll start on chapter 5 later. Now, I was looking at the January 6th hearings continued, and I don't know how many of you saw it, but I think you need to see it. And I'm going to, if it pleases Allah, I'm going to play it for you.
This would have happened without him. He was personally.
And a staggering betrayal of his food would be in order.
Give me a minute. I'm going to get it at the beginning.
The Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol will be in order. Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare the committee in recess at any point. Pursuant to House Deposition Authority Regulation 10, the chair announces the committee's approval to release the deposition material presented during today's hearing. Good afternoon, and may God bless the United States of America. 4 months ago, this committee started to present our findings to you, the American people. From the beginning, we understood that some people watching those proceedings would wrongly assume that the committee's investigation was a partisan exercise. That's why I asked those who were skeptical of our work to simply to listen to the evidence, to hear the testimony with an open mind, and to let the facts speak for themselves before reaching any judgment. Over the course of these hearings, the evidence has proven that there was a multi-part plan led by former President Donald Trump to overturn the 2020 election. Donald Trump lost his bid for re-election, as shown from the testimony of some of the president's closest allies and advisors. Donald Trump knew he lost. Despite this knowledge, Donald Trump went to court to contest the 2020 election, and he lost in court. The Electoral College met and declared Joe Biden the winner, yet Donald Trump continued to pull out all the stops in his attempt to stay in power. What Donald Trump proceeded to do after the 2020 election is something no president has done before in our country. In a staggering betrayal of his oath, Donald Trump attempted a plan that led to an attack on a pillar of our democracy. It's still hard to believe. But the facts and testimony are clear, consistent, and undisputed. How do we know this? How have we been able to present such a clear picture of what took place? Because of the testimony we've heard and that we have presented to you through these proceedings, because of the documentary evidence we've gathered, and also made available directly to you, the American people. When you look back at what has come out through this committee's work, the most striking fact is that all this evidence comes almost entirely from Republicans. The evidence that has emerged did not come from Democrats or opponents of Donald Trump. Instead, look at who has written and testified and produced evidence. Who has that been? Aides who worked loyally for Donald Trump for years, Republican state officials and legislators, Republican electors, the chairwoman of the Republican National Committee, political professionals who worked at the highest levels of the Trump campaign, Trump appointees who served in the most senior positions in the Justice Department, President Trump's staff and closest advisors in the White House, members of the President Trump's family, his own White House counsel. I've served in Congress a long time. I can tell you it's tough for any congressional investigation to obtain evidence like what we received, least of all such a detailed view into a president's inner circle. And I want to be clear, not all these witnesses were thrilled to talk to us. Some put up quite a fight, but ultimately the vast majority cooperated with our investigation. And what we've shown you over the last 4 months has been centered on the evidence that has come overwhelmingly from Republican witnesses. So I say to you again, as I did in June, this investigation is not about politics. It's not about party. It's about the facts, plain and simple. And it's about making sure our government functions under the rule of law as our Constitution demands. Today, as in previous proceedings, my colleagues and I will present new evidence. That includes new testimony from additional Republicans who served in the Trump administration, never before seen footage of congressional leaders on January 6th working to coordinate the response to the violence and ensure the people's business went forward. New materials produced to the committee by the Secret Service, details about the ongoing threat to American democracy. Today's proceedings will also be grounded in the facts, but it won't look exactly like all our other hearings. We'll also take a step back and look at the evidence in a broader context, providing a summary of key facts we've uncovered. Facts relevant to former President Trump's state of mind, about his motivation, and about his intent. What did President Trump know? What was he told? what was his personal and substantial role in a multi-part plan to overturn the election. For those of you who watched our prior hearing, some of this evidence will look familiar. For those of you tuning in for the first time, we'll summarize some of the most important facts, and we'll urge you to go online and watch our hearing in full. There's one more difference about today. Pursuant to the notice circulated prior to today's proceedings, we are convened today not as a hearing, but as a formal committee business meeting, so that in addition to presenting evidence, we can potentially hold a committee vote on further investigative action based upon that evidence. Before we get to that evidence, I recognize our distinguished Vice Chair, Ms. Cheney of Wyoming, for any opening statement she'd care to offer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Much has happened since our last public hearing on July 21st. As the chairman mentioned, we've received new and voluminous documentation from the Secret Service, which we continue to analyze. We've received new witness testimony, including about efforts to obstruct our investigation and conceal key facts. And according to public reporting, the Department of Justice has been very active in pursuing many of the issues identified in our prior hearings. Our committee may ultimately decide to make a series of criminal referrals to the Department of Justice, but we recognize that our role is not to make decisions regarding prosecution. The preamble to our Constitution recites, among its purposes, to quote, establish justice. And our nation's judiciary and our U.S. Department of Justice have that responsibility. A key element of this committee's responsibility is to propose reforms to prevent January 6th from ever happening again. We've already proposed, and the House has now passed, a bill to amend the Electoral Count Act to help ensure that no other future plots to overturn an election can succeed. And we will make further specific recommendations in our final report, based in part on the evidence you will hear today. Our hearings last summer began with an outline of President Trump's multi-part plan to overturn the 2020 presidential election. We then proceeded to demonstrate each of these elements in detail, with more than 20 hours of evidence. Today, we will see new evidence, but as the chairman said, we will also synthesize evidence you've seen before. The vast weight of evidence presented so far has shown us that the central cause of January 6th was one man, Donald Trump, whom many others followed. None of this would have happened without him. He was personally and substantially involved in all of it. Exactly how did one man cause all of this? Today, we will focus on President Trump's state of mind, his intent, his motivations, and how he spurred others to do his bidding, and how another January 6th could happen again if we do.
I want to stop Ms. Cheney for a moment and tell you how did one man, it wasn't the one man, it was all of the support that you have been giving to people who get up and who purposely lie on other people to get into office, and then you pat them on the back and reward them for lying by letting them take office. You got many people, instead of you demanding that they prove things that they say about other people, they get out and they just lie. And you clap for them. Donald Trump and these people that you got up there now, Marjorie Taylor Greene and many more like them, the House of Representatives full of a bunch of traitorous, libelous, and slanderers. You done filled your House and your Senate with these type of people. You did that. Your hatred and your bigotry and your refusal to live up to your own to the things that you taught me from the time I was a child. Justice for all. That's what you could. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. But you didn't live up to it. You threw it in the garbage. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. You don't give a damn about no union now. All you care about is your lying, lily white ass. And some of you ain't got sense enough to know you ain't lily white with your stupid self. Look at them brown eyes. You can't get brown eyes from blue-eyed people. Jackass. Anyway, I'm gonna let you go back to it. Unless somebody got something they want to say to me. Do you know how poor of a person you got to be that when somebody asks you, what's your claim to fame, man? What makes you think you so much better than other people? And the only thing you can say is that your skin is white? You're not only the ass, you're the hole in the middle of it. You ain't never really put it like that, have you?
Take necessary action to prevent it. As you view our evidence today, I would suggest to focus on the following points. First, as you will see, President Trump had a premeditated plan to declare that the election was fraudulent and stolen before Election Day, before he knew the election results. He made his stolen election claims on election night against the advice of his campaign without any evidence in hand. Then, over the next 2 months, he sought to find those who would help him invent and spread lies about the widespread fraud. Many of those who stepped forward to help, including Rudy Giuliani, knew they never had real evidence sufficient to change the election results. And on the evening of January 5th, they admitted they were still trying to find that phantom evidence. Of course, as a result of making intentionally false claims of election fraud, Mr. Giuliani's license to practice law has now been suspended. Second, we recognize that President Donald Trump was in a unique position, better informed about the absence of widespread election fraud than almost any other American. President Trump's own campaign experts told him that there was no evidence to support his claims. His own Justice Department appointees investigated the election fraud claims and told him point blank they were false. In mid-December 2020, President Trump's senior advisors told him the time had come to concede the election. Donald Trump knew the courts had ruled against him. He had all of this information, but still he made the conscious choice to claim fraudulently that the election was stolen. To pressure state officials to change election results, to manufacture fake electoral slates, to attempt to corrupt our Department of Justice, to summon tens of thousands of supporters to Washington. Knowing that they were angry, knowing that some of them were armed, he sent them to the Capitol. Then, as the riot was underway, he incited his supporters to further violence by publicly condemning his vice president. And then he refused for hours to disband his rioting supporters and instruct them to leave the Capitol, even when he was begged repeatedly to do so. None of this is normal or acceptable or lawful in our republic.
Now remember that statement. Listen to it again. This is very important.
His own Justice Department appointees investigated the election fraud claims and told him point blank they were false. In mid-December 2020, President Trump's senior advisors told him the time had come to concede the election. Donald Trump knew the courts had ruled against him. He had all of this information, but still he made the conscious choice to claim fraudulently that the election was stolen. To pressure state officials to change election results, to manufacture fake electoral slates, to attempt to corrupt our Department of Justice, to summon tens of thousands of supporters to Washington. Knowing that they were angry, knowing that some of them were armed, he sent them to the Capitol. Then, as the riot was underway, he incited his supporters to further violence by publicly condemning his vice president.
Now remember now, when Donald Trump invited them all to the Capitol, he said it will be wild. Remember that now. This goes into a premeditated plan. Premeditated means before thought about and planned. Do you understand? Now, if you listen to the evidence that these representatives and senators came up with, you will see that this went a whole lot deeper than you thought. Fake electors? Why did you need fake electors? That was very important. You're going to need fake electors. But it's after something. Now understand, it was a plan. Now, instead of telling them people to go home, he said nothing. When people were begging him to tell them to go home, then why was he in such a rage with the Secret Service? The two that was, I think it was two of them in the car. He was raging at them for not taking him to the Capitol. Do you understand? There was a plan. Now just wait.
And then he refused for hours to disband his rioting supporters and instruct them to leave the Capitol, even when he was begged repeatedly to do so.
He was begged repeatedly to tell the people to go home. But he refused. Huh? The reason he refused was because it was all part of the plan. What they were doing was part of the plan. His plan, and those who was helping him.
Normal or acceptable or lawful in our republic, nation, but still he made the conscious choice to claim fraudulently that the election was stolen. To pressure state officials to change election results, to manufacture fake electoral slates, to attempt to corrupt our Department of Justice, to summon tens of thousands of supporters to Washington. Knowing that they were angry, knowing that some of them were armed, he sent them to the Capitol. Then, as the riot was underway, he incited his supporters to further violence by publicly condemning his vice president. And then he refused for hours to disband his rioting supporters and instruct them to leave the Capitol, even when he was begged repeatedly to do so. None of this is normal or acceptable or lawful in our republic. Third, please consider today who had a hand in defeating President Trump's efforts to overturn the election. Vice President Pence, Bill Barr, Jeff Rosen, and others at the Department of Justice. State Republican officials, White House staff who blocked proposals to mobilize the military to seize voting machines and run new elections. Our Capitol Police, aided by the Metropolitan Police. other federal law enforcement, and our National Guard, who arrived later in the afternoon. All of these people had a hand in stopping Donald Trump. This leads us to a key question.
I don't agree with that assessment. William Barr was one of Trump's enablers. And walking out at the last minute to make it look like he was disgusted with something, how could you be disgusted with what you helped create? No, you wasn't disgusted. You was trying to wash your hands just in case, so next time you could try it again. But you could do it more sophisticated next time. Well, ain't nobody forgot you, boy. And you all better wake up.
Why would Americans assume that our Constitution and our institutions in our republic are invulnerable to another attack? Why would we assume that those institutions will not falter next time? A key lesson of this investigation is this.
See, Miss Cheney has got buyer's remorse now. Do you understand? She knows that she helped put that man there and helped him do things that shouldn't have been done. Do you understand? At least she's repented of it. But I'm telling you, you're going to one day put your hand to something that you ain't going to be able to repent from. You keep on. Just keep on. You're going to get your upcomings pretty soon. See, you can't be for justice only when it suits you. If you ain't for justice all the time, you ain't for justice none of the time. I think you spells justice Justus, but that's not justice. Justice is Justice. Just the ice cold facts. I didn't hate. You know, when you memorialize standards, it's like freezing water. Hence the word just ice. You see, it's just right there. You want to know what the rule is? There it is, right there, frozen. You see. So you people that think you living in a universe that lets you get away with lying, show me something out in the creation that comes up out of the earth that's a lie. Show me something that comes up out of it that ain't got no roots. I don't know. All you liars, you about to get what you got coming. It's already done started. Your mind is going. So that you cannot avoid, unless you listen to me and repent. But other than that, you can't think your way out of what's coming on you. And believe me, it's knocking on the door. Or I wouldn't be standing here talking to you.
Institutions only hold when men and women of good faith make them hold, regardless of the political cost. We have no guarantee that these men and women will be in place next time. Any future president inclined to attempt what Donald Trump did in 2020 has now learned not to install people who could stand in the way. And also, please consider this. The rulings of our...
That's why it's so important that you remember the oaths that you take. You see, that just like Miss Cheney, she forgot her oath. Temporarily, at least. Because you took an oath not to uphold the president, not to uphold a political party, but you took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Huh? Now, if you remember that oath, then you know that can't no person get in office and go to violating the Constitution just because they are over that office and think that ain't nothing to stop them. Yes, it is something to stop them. The military is there to stop them. The police is there to stop them. Everybody who knows the Constitution and knows that these people are violating it, you are there to stop them. Do you understand? It's just like that man talking about those documents were his. Yours is what? You done forgot that when you become the president of the United States, you don't even belong to you no more. You belong to the United States. You are of the property of the United States. Yeah, what you think they call when I was in the Marine Corps, they call you Marines, but they have another word for you. They call you GI. You know, GI means government issue. What does that mean? It means whatever the government sends you to do, you have no choice but to go do it. Do you understand? Citizens out on the street, they are not government issue. But when you join the military, you become the property of the military for however many years you signed up for. Do you understand? It has to be that way. An army that does not follow orders is not an army. But they tell you what your allegiance is to is the Constitution of the United States. Do you understand? And you follow the orders, the lawful orders of the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the United States, which is the president of the United States. But if he order you to help him overthrow the United States, now he has become an enemy. An enemy of the Constitution. And you swore to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign or domestic. So, you're in a quagmire, man. These people forgot their oaths. That's why they became partisans instead of senators, instead of representatives. You notice, it's called the U.S. Senate. It's not just called senators. It's called United States Senator. The United States House of Representatives. Then say red states representatives, or the blue state representatives, or the red state senators, or the blue state senators. It's U.S. senators. You remember Shooter? But the man said, "I'm a sitting U.S. senator." And he said, "Yeah, right." And he shot him right in the head. That's because he was upholding that oath he took. This man was an enemy to the Constitution, going around doing things in the name of the United States that the United States laws are against. You're going to get enough of being a hypocrite. Anyway, Go on here.
Are respected and obeyed because we as citizens pledge to accept and honor them. Most importantly, our president, who has a constitutional obligation to faithfully execute the laws, swears to accept them. What happens when the president disregards the court's rulings as illegitimate? When he disregards the rule of law? That, my fellow citizens, breaks our republic. Finally, as you view the evidence today, also consider this. President Trump knew from unassailable sources that his election fraud claims were false. He admitted he had lost the election. He took actions consistent with that belief. Claims that President Trump actually thought the election was stolen are not supported by fact and are not a defense. There is no defense that Donald Trump was duped or irrational. No president can defy the rule of law and act this way in a constitutional republic, period. Mr. Chairman, our nation's federal judges are sworn to do impartial justice, to preserve our Constitution and preserve our Union. Dozens of these judges have been addressing January 6th cases, and many have given us plain, unmistakable warnings about the direction of our republic. Let me read from one judge's statement given at a recent sentencing hearing. Quote, high-ranking members of Congress and state officials who know perfectly well the claim of fraud was and is untrue, and that the election was legitimate, are so afraid of losing their power they won't say so. It has to be crystal clear that it is not patriotism, it is not standing up for America, to stand up for one man who knows full well that he lost, instead of the Constitution he was trying to subvert. Mr. Chairman, the violence and law...
The truth is, they're not so much afraid of losing their power. They done already gave that up. When they decided to, as they say, kiss the ring of a crook. Do you understand? They was afraid of losing their perks. They saw an opportunity to fleece the American people, to live high with the few that the little circle of crooks that they was running with, to keep big houses and cars and mansions, their mansions and their boats and all of this stuff that and the big bank accounts that go with their, not realizing it's like these stupid people that, you know what drove all of your department stores, most of them, out of business? The very people that work there. Furniture leaving the warehouse, goods leaving the warehouse, just walking out the back door, until the pilferage got so bad that when the people that's supposed to be working for you stealing you out of business, well, they stole their own self out of a job. These fools were so short-sighted that they didn't think about the fact that, what do you think your position is going to be with Donald Trump or with any tyrant as a senator, or call yourself making laws or whatever? You ain't going to be no lawmaking body. His word going to be the law. And then ain't going to be no need for no Senate. Remember, they showed you that in the Star Wars. The emperor let the Senate stay around for a while, and then he decided it's time to abolish the Senate. Do you understand? And that's what he did. But you are a fool, like these Supreme Court justices and whatnot, calling themselves Mr. Justice and Miss Justice, and you up there helping injustice take place. You're nothing. It's like these people, it's like these fools that, like Malcolm X, he left the messenger and then still called himself Muslim. You don't don't leave God's messenger and still say you are one who submits. You just stop submitting. Duh. You know, I mean, what was you before you got with the messenger? So what makes you think you can leave him and become something greater when you were something lesser and you only got better because of him? Boy, this is you know, these people have enjoyed the blessings of liberty from Allah that was ordained for this country. And they somehow thought they did it. You finding out what you could do without God. You can destroy yourself, which is what you are doing, thinking that you're doing something. You trying to figure out why some white people now are coming out testifying against you that they used to work with you. Now they talking against you. The Holy Quran says they will say, oh, skins. Allah will make your skins, people who look like you bear witness against you. Make your hands, the people who did a lot of the work, the things that you wanted them to do. Look at what William Barr did after helping Donald Trump. He bear witness that it was all BS. Now, I didn't hear you. You think you can somehow thwart what Allah has set up? You are a fool. All caps. Yeah. And you're going to get what you deserve. The fool hastens to the correction of the stocks.
Lawlessness of January 6th was unjustifiable. But our nation cannot only punish the foot soldiers who stormed our Capitol. Those who planned to overturn our election and brought us to the point of violence must also be accountable. With every effort to excuse or justify the conduct of the former president, we chip away at the foundation of our republic.
The thing that I fault you still for is that you using this soft language. They didn't try to overturn or overthrow your election. They tried to overthrow your government. Your electoral process is your government. You better start calling spades spades.
Indefensible conduct is defended. Inexcusable conduct is excused. Without accountability, it all becomes normal, and it will recur. So as we watch the evidence today, please consider where our nation is in its history. Consider whether we can survive for another 246 years. Most people in most places on earth have not been free. America is an exception. And America continues only because we bind ourselves to our founders' principles, to our Constitution. We recognize that some principles must be beyond politics, inviolate, and more important than any single American who has ever lived. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Without objections, the chair recognizes the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Lofgren, for an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very shortly after the election, we begin this meeting by returning to election night, November 3rd, 2020. As the chairman noted, we've previously presented testimony about how the election results were expected to come in that night. In certain states, ballots cast by mail before election day would be counted only after the polls closed that evening. That meant that election results would not be known for some time. Although President Trump's campaign manager, Bill Stepien, House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy, and Jared Kushner had advised Donald Trump to encourage mail-in voting by Republicans, President Trump did not do so.
Yeah, I just remember generally, you had people arguing that we had a very, very robust get out the vote effort, and that, mail-in ballots could be a good thing for us if we looked at it correctly.
There was one meeting that was had in particular. I invited Kevin McCarthy to join the meeting, he being of like mind on the issue with me, in which we made our case for why we believed mail-in voting, not to be a bad thing for his campaign. But the president's mind was made up.
So it was expected.
His mind was made up when he became president. The first time. That he didn't want no second election, period. Why? If he had gotten in there for a second term, that would have been the end of it anyway. He couldn't run no more. Do you understand? He wanted to be president for life. He meant that when he stood up and said that. So he had his plan together. The plan that he had in mind. Remember, this man was also on television putting on a show about, the apprentice and all that kind of stuff. All that stuff was just a bunch of fake stuff. But he know how to put forth a fake thing. And so he wanted anarchy, mayhem, anarchy, godlessness, and autocracy, MAGA. And how do you get that? You remember, Michael Flynn them had told him that he could declare martial law, and until martial law is undeclared, all business, all politics stop. Do you understand? He saw his way to be president for life. Do you understand? So you declare, tell your followers, don't mail in no ballots. He figured he wasn't going to win it no way. No, don't. Joe Biden got approximately 8 million more votes than he did. Do you understand? So he told his followers, don't. You go and vote in person. Then when all of his people, mostly ignorant Republicans, they didn't know the plan. Most of them didn't. They voting their emotions, voting their, some of these Civil War people want to, all of them had their own. Like that one boy said, he just want to see it glow, dude. Huh? Remember him? Yeah. So he used their stupidity against them. See, they thought they was on the same page as Donald Trump. They weren't on the same page that Donald Trump was on. You ever hitchhike? Any of y'all ever had to hitchhike somewhere? Just because somebody was going down the road the way that you needed to go, that didn't mean y'all had the same destination. Do you understand? You just jumped on board because, he was going your way temporarily. Huh? See? And so, people, sometimes they sorry they picked up a hitchhiker. But you was headed for the worst thing that you could think of. You just didn't know it. He had a plan, and it showed wasn't your salvation, and it showed was not your best interest. By now, you done found out Donald Trump don't care nothing about nobody's interest but his own. So they they got on board and with him, and he used them. I mean, that's normal. You use whoever you can use to get where you're trying to go. That's his thinking. And so he used them to help him get rid of them. What's his name? Howard Stern told you that that the people who love Donald the most, those are the ones who he hates the most. Donald hates them. Yeah, tell me something. It's just like I told them, the Secret Service people. Some of them secretly was supporting Donald. They like what Donald Trump's up to. Donald Trump didn't give a damn about you, boy. Your like of him told him you ain't nobody that he could trust. Because he knew he was wrong. Do you understand? And if you were willing to uphold him in that wrong, he just said, well, the hell with him, man. I mean, the two that drove him up there, if they had been stupid enough to take him up there, they'd have been the first ones killed. That would have been his excuse. You see? They killed my agents. They killed my... I'm not going to hide from these people. That was going to be the plan. He's going to put on a show of indignation and stand up there like he's brave and whatnot. But he told them from the beginning, let them people in here. They're not here to hurt me. I didn't hear you. Okay. It was all a plan. That's why he was so mad when they didn't take him up there. So, just listen. We're going to go over tonight. Ain't no such thing. We're going to be here a while.
Before the election, that the initial counts in some states, in other words, those votes cast on election day, would be more heavily Republican. And this would create the false perception of a lead for President Trump, a so-called red mirage. But as the results of the absentee ballots that were later counted, there could be trends towards Vice President Biden as those mail-in ballots were counted. Now, on election night, Donald Trump's advisors specifically told him he didn't have a factual basis to declare victory. He should wait for the remaining ballots to be counted. Here is campaign manager Bill Stepien.
It was far too early to be making any calls like that. Ballots were still being counted. Ballots were still going to be counted for days. And it was far too early to be making any proclamation like that. I believe my recommendation was to...
See, now, he knew that the pandemic was forcing people not to go to the polls. He knew that people was going to be voting by mail-in. So he told his people, you go to the poll and vote. Then that was his way of setting the stage for claiming fraud. It would show him ahead because all them people who voted in person, it would have him ahead by quite a bit. He knew that. They told him that. But you can't declare victory because there's some more votes going to be coming in by mail. So he declared that all of the counting needs to stop at a certain point. He had declared that no more counting, no ballots. And yeah, that was his thing. They even got him saying that. And then he stand up and tell the people, see, they robbed us. I had won, and they took it from us. So he did the thing that God said he hated the most. The last thing that he mentioned was, he says, these 6 things doth the Lord hate. Yeah, 7 are an abomination unto him. This is chapter 6 and verse 16 of Proverbs. It says, A proud look, that's one. A lying tongue, that's two. And hands that shed innocent blood, that's three. A heart that deviseth wicked imagination, that's four. Feet that's swift in running to mischief, that's five. A false witness that speaketh lies. You know these religious people that claim God sent them? False witnesses. Remember, Jesus called himself a witness. He said, we speak that which we do know and testify that which we have seen, and you receive not our witness. Huh? Okay. A false witness. False prophets, people like that. False representatives. And the last thing, he that soweth discord among brethren. Huh? What was he doing when he stood up there and told that lie, talking about they stole the election from us, from you? Sowing discord. Of course, Grover Norquist had been sowing discord before that. You put up with it. You know, you don't realize what you had. You thought your greatest asset was your military and your money and all of that. No, your greatest asset was your unity with your people. And now you don't have any. One of you is a believer in truth. And one of you is a disbeliever in truth. You're believers in lies. One of you believes in right, and the other one believes in wrong. Knowingly. And when a man chooses the wrong way, knowingly, because he thinks it's more profitable. That's what you saw an example of it in Star Wars, where the good and evil, they were choices that the Sith made and the Jedi made. Huh? One chose darkness, the other one chose light. You see, you think that because a person does not practice the dark ways, that they are somehow weak. As the emperor found out, Yoda did not practice the ways of darkness, but he knew them. Do you understand? You know, I mean, it's a lot of things that I suppress in myself. The way I grew up and whatnot, and some of the things that I did growing up and learned growing up. I don't do those things no more. But I ain't forgotten. You know, I done met with people who don't understand nothing but an ass whooping. I done met them kind of people. They just won't quit. They just won't leave you alone. And when you try to be at peace with them, they think you're afraid of them. And sometimes that's true. But it ain't true always. And most of them don't have sense enough to know which is which. Anyway.
Say that votes were still being counted. It's too early to tell.
These little garden snakes was running around with a king snake and didn't understand what was really going on. They thinking that he respects the electoral process, even though he studied showing them he don't give a damn about no electoral process. The man don't give a damn about the Constitution. Oh.
Too early to call the race.
But President Trump did declare victory in the late hours of election night. Not only did he declare victory, he also called for the ongoing count of votes to just stop. Stopping the count would have violated both federal and state laws and also disenfranchised millions of voters who lawfully cast their vote. He called for that action anyway. Here's what he said.
This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. We want all voting to stop.
We now know more about President Trump's intention for election night. The evidence shows that his false victory speech was planned well in advance, before any votes had been counted. It was a premeditated plan by the president to declare victory no matter what the actual result was. He made a plan to stay in office before Election Day. Now, the vice president's staff was concerned with what Donald Trump might do on election night. They took steps to ensure that Mr. Pence would not echo a false victory announcement from President Trump. Here's what the Vice President's counsel, Greg Jacob, told us about his preparations with the Vice President's Chief of Staff, Mark Short.
Mark had indicated to me that there was a possibility that there would be a declaration of victory within the White House that some might push for. And this is prior to the election results being known. And that he was trying to figure out a way of avoiding the vice president sort of being thrust into a position of needing to opine on that when he might not have sufficient information to do so.
Now, following this conversation, Mr. Jacob drafted a memo.
In other words, the vice president was weak, but he just wasn't that weak that he was going to go along with that. They were trying to figure out a way around him. Do you understand? You see, when you get weak-minded people, and you know what a weak mind is? An unpatriotic mind. You know, it's just certain things. Patriotism is like parenthood. It's generally something that just comes natural to you after you become responsible for your children, for a child. You just naturally are not going to do something that's going to hurt that child. Do you understand? And you may not be the best provider, may not be the best parent, but there's some natural love there. And you just not going to stand by and watch someone purposely hurt your child. Well, you know, I don't give Vice President Pence no lot of kudos or no, you know, but he wasn't just going to stand by and watch the Republic just be destroyed. He wasn't going to do that. Do you understand? He he was, he had on blinders, but he was peeking out from time to time. We'll put it like that. Because he went along with whatever Trump wanted the whole time. And it's no way he could honestly tell you he thought that everything that Donald Trump did was right. But he was just too weak to speak up. Well, William Barr, he rolled on just like any weakling. You could look at him and tell you know, it's certain things that you notice about people you don't lose it, you know, of being a someone that could be pushed around and all of that kind of thing. And he always finds the popular thing to get with, and that's where he went all his life. You check him out. You check any of these boys out that roll with Trump. It's because they got with the crowd, and that's where the crowd was going. You know, if you get in that crowd, then you feel safe. Do you understand? Now, of course, me, I've been just the opposite. My life ain't been with no crowd. My daddy didn't let me go hang out with a bunch of crowds and go where everybody else was going. He taught me I didn't realize what he was doing was teaching me to stand on my own. And, you know, I don't, you know, I ain't the person who just follows a crowd, just go along to get along. I just can't do it. If I don't agree with you, I have to tell you. No, I ain't gonna do that. Do you understand? I ain't gonna help you gang up on nobody. I'm not gonna help you lie on people. I don't care what your intentions are. Well, we need to do this to stop him. Well, if you got to lie on him to stop him, then you ain't doing too well. Not with me.
To Mr. Short, which the Select Committee got from the National Archives. The memo was sent on November 3rd, Election Day, and advised it is essential that the Vice President not be perceived by the public as having decided questions concerning disputed electoral votes prior to the full development of all relevant facts. A few days before the election, Mr. Trump also consulted with one of his outside advisors, inside activist Tom Fitton, about the strategy for election night. The Select Committee got this pre-prepared statement from the National Archives. As you can see, the draft statement, which was sent on October 31st, declares, "We had an election today, and I won." And the Fitton memo specifically indicates a plan that only the votes counted by the election day deadline, and there is no election day deadline, would matter. Everyone knew that ballot counting would lawfully continue past election day. Claiming that the counting on election night must stop before millions of votes were counted was, as we now know, a key part of President Trump's premeditated plan. On election day, just after 5 p.m., Mr. Fitton indicated he'd spoken with the president about the statement. Sending along again, just talked to him about the draft below. Again, this plan to declare victory was in place before any of the results had been determined. In the course of our investigation, we also interviewed Brad Parscale, President Trump's former campaign manager. He told us he understood that President Trump planned as early as July that he would say he won the election even if he lost. And just a few days before the election, Steve Bannon, a former Trump chief White House strategist and outside advisor to President Trump, spoke to a group of his associates from China and said this.
And what Trump's going to do is just declare victory, right? He's going to declare victory. But that doesn't mean he's the winner. He's just going to say he's the winner. The Democrats, more of our people vote early that count. Theirs voted May. And so they're going to have a natural disadvantage, and Trump's going to take advantage of it. That's our strategy. He's going to turn himself winner. So when you wake up.
I remember Steve Bannon talking to people in China. You see, many of the people that are not democratic republics, the only thing that has been in their way of dominating the rest of the world was the United States. America first. If you can get the American people to implode, and that's what Trump was up to. He wanted to install a dictatorship in the United States. And that's what Steve Bannon is there telling them what Trump's plan is. You see, now, it's, you know, too bad you don't hear the other side of that conversation. Do you understand? But you can kind of glean out of what he's saying that this ain't just something that's just now started to be talked about. They have been having two-way conversations on how to do this thing. Do you understand? Let's take it back a little bit. I tell you what, I'm not going to make y'all stay here late tonight. We're going to get into this some more Sunday, but, you know, and then, so I ain't going to, it's not necessary. We got quite a few hours Sunday.
President Trump's former campaign manager. He told us he understood that President Trump planned as early as July that he would say he won the election even if he lost. And
see, this wasn't even about the election. It was about president for life. Do you understand? That's what he used the election, but he was planning on using the election to install himself with martial law.
just a few days before the election, Steve Bannon.
All of you people out there, especially you white people out there. Now, you can think what you want about me, but you're not going to be able to say that I did not warn you. You think that a dictatorship is better because you done forgot the history of how your dictators treated you. So you go on, and you're going to get just what you deserve.
A former Trump chief White House strategist and outside advisor to President Trump spoke to a group of his associates from China and said this.
And what Trump's going to do is just declare victory, right? He's going to declare victory. But that doesn't mean he's the winner. He's just going to say he's the winner. The Democrats, more of our people vote early that count. Theirs voted May. And so they're going to have a natural disadvantage, and Trump's going to take advantage of it. That's our strategy. He's going to turn himself winner. So when you wake up Wednesday morning, it's going to be a firestorm. Also, if Trump is losing, right?
You hear them laughing in the background? Yeah. They can't believe what they're hearing. But, you know, it's funny to them. Oh, so that's how it's going to fall?
11 o'clock at night, it's going to be even crazier. No, because he's going to sit right there and say they stole. I'm directing the Attorney General to shut down all ballot places in all 50 states. It's going to be nuts. He's not going out easy. Trump, if Biden's winning, Trump is going to do some crazy shit.
As you know.
They knew because they was in on the plan. He going to declare martial law. He going to shut down get his hand-picked sycophant Attorney General to shut down all of the ballot boxes and the voting places in all 50 states. And I mean, he had it all. They had it all planned. Martial law is able to do that. You see, everything have to stop until you see who this is that's causing all this chaos and done shot 2 of my Secret Service agents and done killed some of my, a lot of them people out there was going to have to be killed, and to justify the facade of anarchy. Do you understand? Okay. They didn't know that they was going to be sacrificed, but you're going to make an omelet, you got to do what? You got to break a few eggs up. There you go.
Oh, Mr. Bannon refused to testify in our investigation. He's been convicted of criminal contempt of Congress, and he's awaiting sentencing. But the evidence indicates that Mr. Bannon had advanced knowledge of Mr. Trump's intent to declare victory falsely on election night, but also that Mr. Bannon knew about Mr. Trump's planning for January 6th. Here's what Bannon said on January 5th.
All hell is going to break loose tomorrow. It's all converging, and now we're on, as they say, the point of attack, right? The point of attack tomorrow. I'll tell you this, it's not going to happen like you think it's going to happen, okay? It's going to be quite extraordinarily different. And all I can say is strap in. You have made this happen, and tomorrow it's game day. So strap in, let's get ready.
Another close associate of Donald.
It's game day. You know what it means to run game on people. Yeah. I tell you what, go online and look at the sting. Matter of fact, let me let you see it. I want you to
disrupts my skin with itch. It disrupts my skin with rash. But now...
What? Now, this is Robert Redford and Paul Newman is the stars in this, and they set up this elaborate scheme to rob this man, and he's not gonna know that they robbed him, because he's a gangster, and if he knew what they was planning, all of them he'd kill all of them. So this is it's called the sting, and the reason they robbing him is because he killed one of their friends, and they getting them some payback. But the kind of payback, since they wasn't a bunch of killers, but they were professional grifters, con men, and so they set up this elaborate hoax to get him. And now I'm taking you straight to the part where they was running this betting on racehorses, and they set up a whole little place there. Now what you seeing here, what you gonna see here, it's all fake. And everybody in there is fake, except this one man coming in there that they trying to rob. So just check this out.
Last call on the 3rd at Riverside Park. They're at the post. At Harvey DeGraw, the winner, Light Chatter, paid $540, $380, and $240. Black Sock, $500,000 to win. And the hostess, Lucky Gun, 3rd race at Riverside. Post time for the 3rd, 2:47.
Who's
Oh, there's a jockey
the manager?
Jay Stout will ride Flying Cross. And Scratch
The guy on stage has got $500,000 on Lucky Day.
the winner at Rockingham Park, Infant, paid $610, $430, and $250.
What's your problem?
I put $500,000 on Lucky Down to win 3rd race at Riverside. Can't leave that off in time. Bet like that could break us. Not only are you a cheat, you're a gutless cheat as well. Brilliant. 4-1. Take all of it.
Yes. What'd you say? Okay, now what happens at the end? You know, we got enemies up there that try to stop us from teaching you. But anyway, what happens at the end is that, you see, he begged them to take his money. Is that right? You know, they conned him into coming in there thinking he was going to beat them. And he came in there and he brought $500,000 in there to place on a horse that he thought it was a sure thing because they was making bets after the race was over. You know, but these people didn't know it. But anyway, in the end, he lost his money. And then some fake FBI people came in there and pretended to be arresting him. And he was a pretty knowledgeable banker. And it's been that 3 hours already? Good gracious. All right. I tell you what. Y'all who got internet, go on, pull up the Sting and look at that. It's called The Sting. And look it up online. And go to the scene where the last scene of it is called The Sting. They got different parts of the hook and the grab, and then it's finally the sting, where they run the game on the fella that they really after. And so they did that to him. And so like I told you, see, this is the kind of thing that they want to do in America. Now, the copyright laws say that I have a right to use copyrighted material to critique or to teach lessons off of. But that wasn't even playing a minute and a half before they started talking about some copyright infringement. There is no infringement when you're using copyrighted material for teaching aids. Do you understand? And so when we write them to ask them what we explain, how are we infringing? on copyrights, they don't respond. So I guess we just gonna have to let a judge decide here. So I'm tired of them doing that to us. You know, here I'm trying to help the people in this country understand enough so that they can hold on to their government. And these people in here are trying to fight us on it. Do they give a name of who's doing that? Why don't he give his name? Text him right quick and ask him, what is your name? So that we will know who you are that keeps on telling us that we are violating some copyright law when we don't feel we are. And he threatened to block us? Is that what he did? Maybe. Okay, well, I tell you what. Text him what you need to text him to make him give us an explanation. Put it on the screen. What is the thing we're violating? I mean, that's what I want to know. What are we violating? What am I not understanding about the fair use clause? I mean, if you watching us that close that you can tell us that we streaming something we shouldn't, then I know you listening. So why don't you tell us what are we violating? You know, you're really annoying me. But anyway, as I told you, we're not going to go over tonight. We'll just wait and go into it Sunday. But I want to know what they, and then we'll put it up on the screen to see what their answer is, so that everybody who's in here will know what the answer was. Do you understand? I mean, if it's legitimate, they should not mind telling us. Anyway, some of you who are, you contact the appropriate people. Let's see about putting an end to this stuff. Okay. So, did anybody have a question they wanted to ask me? Okay. Then we're going to cut it right there. But, see, now they conning the crook. So much so that the crook begged him to take his money. Dared him. He dared him to take it. Is that right? So he wasn't going to know, he definitely not going to know that he was conned. So you might enjoy the whole movie. I did. I enjoyed it. It's an old movie, but there's a good lesson in it. So I'm going to let you go, and may Allah bless us all and keep us safe. Who believe in and accept the truth when it comes. And the rest of you, I don't have no prayer at all for you. I'm not interested in nothing good for you. since you hate me so much. May you get what you so richly deserve. So, those of you who believe in truth, and accept truth when the truth comes to you, may Allah bless us, keep us safe and in our right minds, and grant to us a peaceful and pleasant night's rest and sleep, and a happy, peaceful, and pleasant morning's rise. And for all of you hypocrites out there that somehow think that I'm saying something that I shouldn't, let me read something to you here. This is John, the 17th chapter. It says, I'm going to start at the 6th verse. I have manifested thy name unto the men which thou gavest me out of the world. Thine they were, and thou gavest them to me, and they have kept thy word. Now they have known that all things whatsoever thou hast given me are truly of thee. For I have given unto them the words which thou gavest me, and they have received them, and have known surely that I came out from thee, and they have believed that thou didst send me. I pray for them. I pray not for the world, but for them which thou hast given me. For they are thine, and all mine are thine, and thine are mine, and I am glorified in them. I pray not for the world. So, just letting you know that I know what I'm saying. So you low down, trifling people out there that hate the truth and love lies, my only prayer for you is that Allah hurry and throw your behind in hell. Amen, amen, and amen. So, may Allah's salam alaikum.
This session is no longer being signed.